Bromley have a proud 132-year history in non-league football, but this year they can claim proud status as an EFL club for the first time in their history, as Andy Woodman's side ran out victorious at Wembley back in May with a penalty shootout victory over Solihull Moors. Big challenges ahead for this attritional direct Bromley side, with a smattering of creativity in there as well. And of course, a big talisman of Michael Cheek, who they'll need to keep hold of. Can they do that? And can they continue to soar Andy Woodman's Ravens and make a home for themselves in the EFL? We're about to find out in this Summer Deep Dive. Yes, welcome along to this EFL Debate Summer Deep Dive, one of 72 across the EFL between mid-June and mid-July. Already a few uploaded to YouTube and to Spotify, so go check those out once you're done with this one. For now, delighted to be joined by Bromley fan Georgie Weaver. Georgie, welcome to the podcast and to the EFL. Thank you so much for joining us. Just talk us through the achievements last season and, of course, that glorious day at Wembley.
Yeah, I think it's still quite a surreal thing. Like, even just sort of, kind of being on this today, it's weird to think it actually happened. It was one of those seasons where obviously we could feel that we were doing well, when you could feel there was something special that was potentially going to happen. But I don't think many of us truly believed it would happen until it did that day at Wembley. I think even, we were sitting around third and second and thinking, okay, we can get this, to the semi-final, the playoffs. And then, as time went on, you sort of think, actually, there's a real possibility here. We were just doing enough in games to kind of see us through. And I think there was a definite belief in the team that we didn't know when we were beaten, and just really kind of, getting those 3 points, or even those just points, made such a difference throughout, really. And just that slight improvement on the season before, where we didn't quite make it. And then the day at Wembley was just it's not an easy way to win a playoff final on penalties, but it was a good day in the end. So very, very surreal feeling to then be a league club for the first time.
Yeah, and I can imagine all the Ravens in the stands were very nervous, but Byron Webster seemed to almost thrive with the pressure. I'm sure you've seen the clip of him sort of raising his eyebrows before the penalty day in a very cool way. I'm impressed that he had that sort of composure.
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you that me and the people around me, we did not have that same composure. We sort of almost an element of surprise that he was the one to have stepped up, I think. But so glad he did. And it was the coolest man in Wembley that day, and that exact sort of person that you need in that moment, just to have that final penalty to see you through to promotion. But he was definitely calmer than I was, I think, or made it seem like he was, at least.
Absolutely. How would you unpack how Andy Woodman has been able to achieve what he has? Obviously, I'm sure it probably helped not having the likes of Stockport, Wrexham and Notts County in the National League that maybe opened it up for you. But what really interested me, Georgie, was you actually had the second lowest possession in the National League on average. So it suggested it was a pretty direct approach from Bromley, and that paid off for you.
Yeah, I think that's right. And like you say, I think the season before the one just gone, I think when everyone looks back, it was very unlikely that anyone other than Wrexham and Notts in the end were gonna go up. And I think you all have to believe in the moment. And I'm sure that year Chesterfield would have, everyone wanted to believe, but that was a very difficult season for other teams in the National League. And I think this time, Chesterfield, say, fully deserved league winners, and they were quite far ahead of the rest of us at some point. But like you say, we weren't. I don't think we stood out to a lot of teams, and like you say, we're not kind of high possession or sort of. I think a lot of teams maybe watch us and not be that blown away. They don't we might beat them, and they might just think, oh, I'm not really sure, that they necessarily deserve that from a sort of original point of view. But like I said, I think we just didn't. We've got Michael Cheek as a goal scorer, and he just doesn't let you down, and that was shown in the playoff final as well. And I think just this it was almost like that teamwork, and that kind of like DNA and belief that Andy Woodman really brings through, and kind of is really big on. I think that really helped. And that's grinding out wins is what was said throughout the season. And I think that's sort of shown, kind of often we'll just sit back, let teams kind of come to us a little bit. and then we kind of bring the game to them when the time sort of allowed in the game, and not kind of, we wouldn't come out sort of all guns blazing in a lot of games, but actually just kind of wait for the right moment. And there often was that moment to do enough to sort of to win games in the end.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can take that template into League Two. I've got to ask you about Andy Woodman, because he seems like quite a lively character from the outside.
I think so. Yeah, I think when it must have been 2021 when he first, it would have been 3 years ago now. And he was quite of an unknown. And our previous manager had been around for some time, been around the club, so it was quite a shock, like quite a change for a lot of fans as well. But I think since Andy Woodman's come in, you can really sort of see what he's been trying to do, and obviously now succeeded. We had that first season he came in, we got playoffs. The next season we won the FA Trophy. Last season got further in the playoffs, and obviously then the season just gone, won the playoffs. So I think that's it. I think the players have this real belief in him, and the players that he's stuck with, that we had, we've had Michael Cheek and people like Corey Whiteley for a number of years, but then just bringing in new players who make a difference sort of throughout the season. I think that's been quite important. We might sometimes have had a dip sort of after Christmas, but then brings in new players, and actually you can kind of see that revival that sort of then sees us through to the end, and that worked this season for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned bringing in players. I think it was about 34 that you used in the league last season. I think it was around that ballpark, which suggests he was very active in the loan market, Georgie. So do you think that loan market is going to be really important in League Two, especially given you might not be able to have the budget to sign the best permanent players, whereas in the loan market the wages aren't going to be as big a factor?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And I think, even in the National League, say the past 2 seasons, we've brought in Deji from Charlton, and who's now a permanent player, but definitely kind of bringing in these loan players that really have just added something in that moment. And I think, especially with the transfer window in the EFL, obviously have a bigger impact on us, and not just being able to kind of sign players, as and when. I think definitely, and like you say, with budget, the importance of the loan market will be really big for us. And just I've got quite good contacts in the game, Andy Woodman. He's previously at Arsenal, and just I like a lot of managers knows people, so I think having those kind of contacts to get them in the game. Like we had Alex Kirk, the centre back on loan from Arsenal, who has been released by Arsenal, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But people like that I think will be really important, and players like that to bring in to hopefully help us in League Two.
Would you be hopeful of getting someone like Alex Kirk back on a permanent deal?
I think a lot of fans would be. I think I'd be really keen on him coming back. I think him being released from Arsenal, for him personally, I think he should probably hope for League Two. Not League Two, sorry, League One. Because obviously it would be nice if we signed him permanently, but really, he'll hope for either Championship or League One, even if that means being loaned out. But if we could bring him back, or someone of that kind of similar, we have quite good links at Bromley with Millwall and Charlton and Arsenal as well. So it's that level between having the experience, but also that kind of youthful side as well, which you often get with the loan players.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess starting with the key player for Bromley, Georgie, is going to be Michael Cheek, because he scored 21 league goals last season, and people have compared him to a sort of lower league Harry Kane in terms of that ability to be a prolific goal scorer, but also be able to drop in and link the play quite nicely as well.
Yeah, he actually said after the Wembley game that I think he scored, if he played at home at Wembley every week, he'd have more goals than Haaland. So that's his aim. But yeah, I think that's the thing with Michael Cheek. He gets the goals, and like I say, he doesn't really ever let you down. But he also, you watch a game and he's he's defending in that kind of Harry Kane-esque. I always think Harry Kane does so much more than just score goals, and Cheeky really helps out throughout the whole team, and it's quite selfless as well. He'll kind of always help set up another striker or whoever's up front with him. And I think if we can get him some goals next season, I think we should then be all right. And it's really nice that he's getting his opportunity for League Two, because we've had him for a number of years now, and he's obviously been in the National League for for years before that as well.
Sure.
And I think have that chance, and obviously it's nice that he's done it through promotion. I think it's great that he's going to get his chance to see what he can do in League Two for sure.
Yeah, do you know what, Georgie? I was going to ask you whether you're confident that you'll keep hold of him, but sort of inferring from that answer and the fact that he's been with Bromley for such a long time, it would almost feel sort of odd timing in a way if this was the season where he moved on, because he's just won promotion and it's a real opportunity to play for Bromley in the EFL.
Yeah, that's it. I hope I'm right. I'm quite confident we will manage to keep hold of him. Don't find out in a week he's gone or anything. But yeah, I think we don't know what's going to happen in January or a year's time. But I think it'd be a real shame, as can often happen with promotion, is teams can get promoted, and this probably happens quite a lot between like Championship and Premier League as well. Is that the players that get you promoted don't then get aren't then the ones that you see in that first season. But yeah, I do think Michael Cheek will manage to keep hold of him, because like you say, it would be an odd sort of timing for him. He's not going to go up to sort of League One and then any other sort of League Two team. There wouldn't then hopefully be the need for him to go there. So yeah, I think we'll keep and hopefully kind of be quite a pivotal part of our squad next season.
Yeah, certainly will. My understanding, Georgie, is for much of the season he was paired with a strike partner, but actually for the last sort of quarter of the campaign, Andy Woodman moved to a 3-4-2-1 with Corey Whiteley and Louis Dennis sort of just behind him. Do you think that sort of template is something he'll stick with in League Two?
I think he might. I think the difficulty we had sort of this season is having a consistent strike partner with Michael Cheek. We've had like good other strikers, but sort of issues with injury. We signed Levi from Maidstone. I think it was in January. It must have been January, and he was injured. And we had Adam Marriott injured. And I think in the end, having that sort of creativity with Louis Dennis and Corey Whiteley behind him seemed to then work well. I think the difficulty will be obviously in the league above. Is it going to work as well? Leaving him on his own, because sometimes there's an element of sort of on his own up front and not as much help. I think he'll stick with that to begin with, at least, and maybe sort of seeing the difference between a home game and away game, depending on who we're playing as well, and see how that works. But I think we'll definitely need a couple more strikers to help him out along the way through the season.
Yeah, because I tend to think that if you're going to be on the back foot in a lot of games, which I don't want to presume that's the case, but it seems quite likely.
Yeah.
I actually think sometimes having two centre forwards is more helpful than having one, because you've then got two out balls, so that if your midfielders and defenders get sort of drawn in, you've still got two players at the top of the pitch. Whereas I think having one out and out striker with a deep block of 9, you can end up getting so pinned in, and then your one striker ends up getting isolated.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you kind of games can change, or some things can happen so quickly, right? If you kind of start off like that, and then all of a sudden, it's your first few games of the season, you're at these, away games that these teams that are going to be, right up there, and all of a sudden, that happens, and you're 2 goals behind very early on. It's quite difficult to reverse that. It's almost like game done in that moment. And yeah, you're right. You've kind of got 2 up front. It also, I think, then relieves the sort of pressure and the on Michael Cheek then to kind of so it's not all down to him as well, which I think also will be needed.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, talk to me about Levi Amanchi and Olafella Olamola, because I'm not overly familiar with Amanchi, and I mean, I suppose you've only seen him. He's been injured since he came in January, but Olamola is someone who has scored goals at this level before with Yeovil. Do you think that might count for something?
I think so, yeah. As like I said with Levi, we've seen him like very little of him, to be honest, and I hope he gets like a chance to sort of come back from injury in League Two and sort of see what we can do, especially with obviously we're going to have quite a lot of fixtures, with Carabao Cup and EFL Trophy and all sorts. So I think he'll definitely get a chance then. But yeah, with Fella as sort of as we call him, he came in and it was just probably signing of the season in those first, I think, 6 games. It's just he just didn't stop scoring, and even as that dried up a little bit, it's the work rate as a kind of different sort of style player to Michael Cheek when he'd come on. It was just really really useful in games. So I think definitely in League Two we can utilise that hopefully, and he has the confidence, Fella, to to do that and to score. He will believe he can score on that opening game of the season, I'm sure. So yeah, with that experience that he has as well, I think he'll be a really useful asset to us up front as well with Michael Cheek.
Let's hope for a cheeky fella strike partnership then.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we want.
Absolutely. Talk to me about Grant Smith, because I mentioned Olamola has experience of League Two. So does Grant Smith, because I think he played briefly at Stevenage under Dino Marmria. So again, one of those players, you've not got so many of them, but one of those players who's got a little bit of higher level nous.
Yeah, I think without kind of sounding quite biased, I think last season I would say honestly he's one of the best goalies that we had that was in the league. Again, a confident player, and like you say, with the experience that will really help. He was actually the player I felt made the biggest difference to our season compared to the season before. We had a great goalie. We had Charles Cook from the season before, who's also a very good goalie. But I just think Grant Smith made that slight difference. And yeah, I don't see any reason that sort of in League Two, to be honest, that it will phase him particularly. Yeah, he'll believe he can, keep clean sheets, keep us in games. And I think to have kept hold of him and to have that consistency into next season as well, which I also think is quite important, that we're kind of keeping a consistent squad where possible. I think that will definitely really help. And yeah, Grant Smith definitely a part of that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. As you step up a level, it's going to get more difficult. So you want to have that template that you've already built up from last season to be able to rely on. I think that's going to be a really important thing. Defence, you had Kamal Grant on loan from Millwall last season. Is he another one, a bit like Alex Kirk, that you'd be keen to keep hold of if you're able to?
Yeah, definitely. He's one that, again, you kind of start off and it's quite a difference, I think, for a lot of players, is kind of going from sort of under 23s, under 21s football to the National League, which is it's quite a physical league. It's quite intense, I think, when they haven't sort of experienced that. But Kamal Grant sort of, settled in quite quickly, I think. And, again, quite a confident, young player coming through. And I think having that, league experience at being a club like Millwall, I think he'll definitely benefit from playing in League Two, and hopefully, yeah, we kind of keep hold of him and see how he does. It with that, hopefully with that sort of experience of having Byron Webster with him, whether that's in the team on the day or just in the squad and around the club, I think that helps these players massively as well.
Yeah, you can only learn from somebody like Byron Webster, who's had a good EFL career as a centre half, but Webster himself is out of contract, and there's been no official confirmation as to what his future holds. How do you see that playing out?
I think, yeah, like you say, sort of he was one of the ones where it's in discussion with. I still believe he'll be around the club next season. Hopefully, it's difficult, and I'm sure Byron will think, that he can play football. He's got plenty more years left in him. Hopefully, he does in his playing career. But there's this, how much he'll want to play and how much he'll be, then be given, like how much game time he'll be given in League Two. So hopefully, yeah, he'll be around, and I just think he'll be so pivotal in, kind of the match day squads, but just around the club in general, in that EFL experience, and like we saw at the promotion final, just stepping up and taking that penalty. And that's kind of what he does sort of around the team the whole time, not always to that significance of having a penalty like that, but just to be there for those players and to really have that experience and leadership that hopefully that you get from a club captain, and yeah, that he can really have in League Two as well. So I think he'll be sticking around, which would be really good for us.
Yeah, hopefully he can stick around, but maybe from what you're saying, possibly as more of a dressing room influence and a person around the club than necessarily someone who'd be starting every week.
Yeah, that's it. I sort of doubt there'll be 90 minutes in him kind of every week as such, but just to be around, definitely.
He'll certainly be good for the odd game next season. I wanted to ask you about Callum Reynolds, because this is someone who's always seems to be one of the better defenders in the National League. I remember he got some really good reviews at Aldershot a few years ago as well. So I'm just wondering, are you confident that he can take this opportunity to step up into the EFL?
Yeah, I'm quite confident. He's one of them, sort of not, no official confirmation that he's resigned, but I'm pretty, hopeful as well that he will. Like you say, he's one of those defenders that you kind of just gets on with things almost, just sort of quietly there, and you're right, almost like an underrated one in the National League. It feels. He was quite popular at Dagenham as well, I think, and yeah, just one of those that sort of you don't often notice, but in a good way, that he's just, gets on with his defending, might pop up with a goal or two here and there. I think again he's wanting that opportunity to kind of, be sort of back in the league and kind of show what he can do. And I think he'd be able to get quite a lot of game time if and hopefully he does resign. So I think he can be one that we can really rely on as well. And like I say, I think obviously we need signings, and we need a bigger squad and more people, but to keep that core team that got you promoted, I think it's really important as well. And hopefully we can keep him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the number of players that I think you're in discussions with about 5 players based on the retained list, and then I think you had something like 8 loanees from last season that went back to their parent club. So are we looking into double figures in terms of what you're going to need in terms of incomings, Georgie?
I think so. Yeah, I would say it's double figures. It's sort of, every position really. You need obviously Grant Smith, and hopefully he'll be our starting goalkeeper. But obviously need a new backup, a goalkeeper really, and then pretty much every position. Really we're wanting 2 strong players in each of those positions. So like you say, looking at sort of double figures of incoming, hopefully in the next month or so, as before we kind of lead up to the start of the season. So it's gonna be a big ask, I think, to to get us, like I say, we've got our core squad, and I'm have faith in them all that they're sort of League 2 ready. But it's definitely that now building blocks of who else do we need, and it's the sort of volume of players we probably do need to bring in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I want the right wing back. Well, the wing back spots generally are really important, I would imagine, because I looked at the way that you defended, particularly in that Wembley playoff final, and you do bring your wing backs back when you're defending. So I imagine that when you recruit wing backs, they're going to have to be very athletic and have an incredible stamina, because they've got to be able to defend when you're out of possession, but also try and get up the pitch really quickly so that you can break out of your defensive shape, as opposed to getting yourselves pinned in.
Yeah, that's it. It's something that, with, like you say, the way we do play, it's that they're such an important part of the game, and end up with the ball kind of so much of it as well. And we're lucky to have Josh Pasley. We've had quite a few this season. Josh Pasley. We had Bez Topolodge from Millwall over on the left side. He was originally on loan and then signed permanently. And again, hope he can. He didn't play as much as the sort of second half of the season. We had the young lad from Fulham, Idris, who came in and was excellent while Bez was suspended. So it was good to have that competition. But yeah, it's definitely a position that we've kind of had a few players with over the last few years, are sort of right and left wing backs, but we've got other players that can fit into those as well when needed. But yeah, definitely something that we utilize quite a lot during our games, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Idris Odotayo is signed up, right? Is he?
He is, I believe. Yeah, I think he was. I think he signed in January, and I think he signed up for at least a year or 18 months. So
great. Okay. So that's a big plus in terms of that left wing back side, and the competition with him and Bez Topolage. That's going to be a strong point, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and like I said, Bez was a sort of big fan favourite, and I would say on his day, one of the best sort of players. He would shine in games, and it was just the fact he got himself suspended, and it just came in and was also really, really good. And it's then difficult to drop a player when they've played so well. And I think it's a shame that Bez didn't then obviously get his chance at Wembley, and but he was such a big part of promotion as well. And like I say, it's difficult because it's that balance that I'm sure every team has between having competition, but players want to play, and
Sure.
it's strikers maybe can be substituted a little bit more. But I'm sure Bez is thinking, well, I want to play regular football, but he's got to kind of see what happens and see if he can earn that place back, I think.
Yeah, hopefully you can do that. Miles Weston, I'm really curious to ask you about Georgie, because I'd imagine, I've not checked his age, but I imagine he's sort of on the older side now. And I'm just kind of wondering, with the physical demands that we've talked about for a wing back role, and having to being able to get up and down the pitch quickly, do you think he'll be able to do that with the step up to League Two level that's going to become even more physically demanding?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult one because I can't off the top of my head tell you exact age, but I would. I think he's on the older side of the playing squad. And to be fair, he didn't play. I think he might have played 90 minutes once towards the end of the season, or often it was 60 minutes, or coming on 15 minutes at the end of a game. And then in our semi final against Altrincham, he scored this wonder goal that that helped to see us through to the final. And I think I see it as him being that kind of Byron Webster style player. So that good to have around the club. Be really good in the dressing room, having that just general experience of football, throughout his career. But probably be quite difficult, like you say, with the sort of more physical demands in League Two, to then play a lot of games, or to play 90 minutes quite regularly. So I think it will be nice if we have him involved, because he's got that, again, kind of level head and that experience that's not, might not be the obvious creativity that you get with some players, but definitely good to have around, and hopefully we can keep him and he can be involved somehow.
Yeah, and another one that's got some football league experience, and that's always a valuable thing. I think he played in the playoffs at this level with Southend. So then I wanted to come to Jude Arthurs, who had a bit of a point to prove, I suppose, because he was left out of the FA Trophy final in 2022 when he beat Wrexham. It seems like he's always had a bit of a bit of an axe to grind, maybe, for want of a better word about that. But do you think that served as a motivation for him to kick on and achieve what he has in the last couple of years?
I think so. I think that's quite a good way of putting it. This almost, he's got that sort of point to prove, and Jude comes across as one of those players that, always, wants to prove what he can do, wants to be involved, and again, he's very much someone who doesn't let you down. If he's told by Woodman or whoever, Jude, you're going to play it right back today, you're going to play in the middle, you're going to play a bit more up front, a bit more kind of sitting back today, he'll get on and do it. He might not necessarily like it, who knows, but he'll just do it. And I think he just loves that kind of being involved and playing. And he then becomes such an important part of teams. And you kind of look back on games and just think Jude can be a standout player. You could pick him as man of the match so often. And again, having someone who's kind of come through the academy, and having him as a in League Two, and him getting that chance as well with Bromley, I think is really great. And again, I think maybe with a lot of players, and Jude being one of them, it'll be interesting to see how he does. And obviously also interesting because you don't know who you're going to bring in yet either.
Sure.
And like we're saying, definitely need some players to add to the ranks. But I think Jude, I think he'll take his chance, and he'll he likes, he's sort of a little bit one of those players that sort of winds up other opposition players and fans. So I'm sure he'll enjoy doing that in League Two as well when he gets a chance.
Absolutely, get bigger fan bases on his back.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, do you think that Andy Woodman will look to bring in one more EFL experienced central midfielder? Bearing in mind you've also got Sam Woods and Callum Corbin as your other options there. But do you think he'll trust Jude Arthurs and Ashley Charles at this level?
I think he'll look to bring in someone, like you say, with kind of that EFL experience. To be honest, I think there's Callum Corbin is not really had much national league experience either, to be honest, of as that kind of academy again coming through in quite early days of that. And with Jude and Ashley Charles, they definitely Ashley Charles proved since he came in, he again I would say one of the a big reason that we got promoted in the end was because of him, just with that added ability that he brought in the midfield. But I just think, like with a lot of other positions, we really do need that experience and that depth in squad as well, to be honest, to sort of say, okay, this is, we've got these players, but just have that ability to mix it up. And if things aren't going right, or someone gets injured or needs a break or anything. So it's. I think he'll trust in Jude and Ashley Charles, but I think midfield is such a pivotal part, and often where I think a lot of Bromley fans can sometimes notice if a game doesn't go well, we think, oh, it might have been the midfield where we struggled there. So it's definitely going to be a position that people are going to be really interested in seeing who we appoint there.
Yeah, and possibly someone who might be able to put their foot on the ball and sort of look after it a bit at certain moments as well, because sometimes you're not always able to play the same way for 90 minutes every game, because that can be quite physically draining. Whereas if you've got a midfielder who can, as well as doing the defensive work, but also sort of look after the ball, then at least you give yourself some oxygen at certain moments.
Yeah, exactly. And like we were saying, it's be quite dependent on, if we've got a home team, obviously against, it's difficult. We're probably going to be, a team that is sees an easy target as such. Teams that maybe we think are going to be a bit less physically demanding at home compared to those, really difficult ones, away trips and teams that you look at and it's like you say, it's those midfielders who can hold the ball, sort of, sit behind it a little bit and control that game a bit more, compared to those who we know, you can view a team sheet and think, okay, well, they're going to go full, that Jude, or we had this season from the academy, Ben Crowhouse, who's gone to Brentford, knowing that with Ben, he would have gone, kind of goes full with the ball, is going to do something with it. Say with Corey Whiteley and Louis Dennis, compared to, maybe Ashley Charles and Sam Woods, who sort of think are going to sit back and sort of control the game a bit more from the midfield.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then I guess I want to ask you about Corey Whiteley and how important you think he's going to be from that creative point of view, especially with Ben Crowhouse now back at Brentford.
Yeah, Corey Whiteley is, again, like I was sort of saying with Bez, but on his day, I think Corey Whiteley is our most creative player. You can know with Corey, he's gonna make something happen. He's gonna have a shot. He's gonna potentially put it in the top corner. And we sometimes say, so I sometimes say to my dad, if Corey has a bad game, sometimes Bromley has a bad game. It's just it's as much as it's a whole team thing. Yeah, with Corey, he can really make a difference. And again, I think he'll have the belief that he can do that in League Two as well. Adds that bit, he'll run round players, he'll, like I say, give it a go. And I think that will be really, really important, as we've kind of got to prove ourselves in League Two, obviously a little bit. Yeah. And I think he was at, was it Newport?
He was at Newport, yeah.
I think he was with us and then went to Newport and came back. So again, he's got that experience. Same with Louis Dennis. He's sort of had a bit of league experience.
Portsmouth, I think, played for Portsmouth briefly.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and again, then came back to Bromley. And I think again, Louis hasn't definitely confirmed for next season, but if they're both there, I think again they'll both sort of have points to prove to say, yeah, we can do this in League Two. That they maybe didn't then get the chance to show as much when they were at league clubs before.
Yeah, well, hopefully Whiteley and Dennis can provide your creativity in those advanced positions. So I wanted to ask you about the board and Georgie, and how much credit they have to take for what Bromley have been able to achieve.
Yeah, they have to take huge credit. I think our chairman and owner, Robin Stanton-Gleaves, he made, I think, quite a reasonably difficult decision to get rid of our previous manager, and like I said, bring in Woodman in 2021, and stuck with Woodman as well. Obviously there was never any reason not to stick with him, but just to kind of to put that faith in him, and they have backed him, and they've backed the whole club. We've been getting ourselves ready for league football for a number of years now. Maybe not all away fans will think that when they arrive next season, but it's it's really has. I think people arrive and are quite impressed that it was a non-league setup, and fully prepared. They've been taking up the pitch, because obviously we were on 3G pitch last season.
Yeah.
So that's in progress, and just knowing that what we had to do, and we're kind of committed to doing that. They had the belief that we were going to get promoted for a number of years. It was always it's not if, it's a when, when it's going to happen. And I think that really filtered through the whole club, not just on the football side of things, but on the just the backroom staff and everything, and they all had that same belief, that same intention. I think it's nice to see that has come to light, and that they've got that reward, which I think they definitely deserve.
Certainly did. I'm thinking as a comparison when Bromley came into the Football League in, excuse me, in 2021. It was a bit of a chaotic summer, if you like, because in their case, they were going from being a part-time club to a full-time club, which Bromley aren't. But it felt like a lot of work was being done to get the club to be Football League ready and to be able to tick all the EFL's boxes. Do you think it's going to be a similar sort of summer for Bromley in terms of the work off the field?
I think it is, yeah. So I'm actually on the supporters board for
Okay.
Bromley, which so we kind of take on people's other fans' feedback and reports the club, and I think that's exactly it. It's everyone knew what we had to do, and obviously the pitch is a huge part. That is the sort of number one priority. Even before the promotion final, Robin Stanton-Gleaves was saying we've got someone booked in. If we go up on the 5th of May, someone's coming in on the Monday to start taking up the pitch. But there's definitely, I think, probably harder work than people realise in terms of all the EFL regulations, and we obviously are a team that fans move around the ground normally during the games, and that's something that's changing slightly, and trying to work out, okay, can we, how much can you move around? Our whole ground isn't all seated, so it's been an interesting kind of seeing everything that needs to be done. And the EFL, I think, are really good. They sort of dedicate someone to help each club and to say, yeah, this is what you need doing, and to help them along the way. So yeah, it's definitely been a summer so far of hard work for them, and it seems like they're doing well. I think there might be difficult at the start just with the changes for fans, but yeah, I think hopefully it's going in the right direction to be completely ready, and it's not going to be, hopefully we're in the EFL for a number of seasons, and it might be a bit temporary some bits, because there's one area that's hopefully going to be redeveloped a bit more, but obviously can't do everything all at once. So some of it's not quite, maybe up to what we want. Hopefully will be done in the future.
Well, as someone on the supporters board, then Georgie, how do you find the club from a point of view of communication and transparency? Because I imagine you've kind of got to be very good on that, if as a sort of historically non-league club, because that's how you get people to feel connected and to support Bromley, as opposed to watching Arsenal in the pub sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, there's been people who have been going to watch Bromley for 60, 70 years, and I mean, even when I started going sort of nearly 20 years ago, it's about 200, 300 people going. And because you're kind of building up from that, people, when there's that few people going to watch, everyone knows, and you feel like you know everything that goes on. And obviously, as you build up attendances and you go up the leagues, that's a bit, it's not as easy to do. You don't know everything that goes on. But I think definitely the supporters board's only been around a couple of years, I think, getting about 2-3 years probably now, and I think definitely since then it has been a big improvement in communication. There's always things that you might slip through, but they definitely take things on board. And they say the supporters are the ones that are stood in the ground during match days, or in the bar beforehand, or whenever, and they're the ones that sort of know, can help out in what needs doing, and what's not right, and what is right as well. So yeah, I think they're very good at taking things on board. And not everything's possible, and not everything can be done in an ideal world, but they definitely listen, and we've seen some good things come of it, which is good.
Absolutely. So in terms of the expectations for Bromley then, Georgie, is there a feeling, I guess, that as a club you're maybe a little bit more ambitious than maybe outsiders might presume?
I think so. I think it's that from both sort of the club side and the supporter side. It's what your head and heart are saying as well. I think right now, if someone said you're going to finish 22nd and you're going to stay up, I think deep down most people would, that's what most people want. But I don't think it is just that. I think there is a lot of us who really believe, you've got to believe you can, be potentially up there a bit more, maybe be a bit of a surprise. And I think it's difficult to say. You don't want to kind of completely say that and suddenly you're down the bottom the whole season. But I think the club definitely, believe, why not? No one's saying we're going to get the playoffs or, do anything kind of super miraculous. But surprise some teams, do better than expected, and kind of have a pretty good consolidation, hopefully. I think, as they have to believe, like you say, quite an ambitious club. And even when sort of saying, oh, we're going to get into the EFL, some other clubs probably didn't think we would, and probably thought that was over ambitious. So you never know, really. So I think it is possible that it's not going to be an easy season, I imagine. But at the same time, I think everyone has, you've got to believe that you can do better than a lot of teams, and a lot of other fans are predicting you're going to do.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can bloody a few noses.
Yeah.
In terms of, if we're going to sort of condense everything we've talked about in this podcast, Georgie, what are the reasons to believe that Bromley can achieve your ambitions and maybe, as you say, surprise a few people?
I think one of the reasons I'm going to say is Michael Cheek. I have full belief, every team needs a goal scorer, and we need a few more goal scorers, don't get me wrong, but I believe that Cheeky can, kind of go into League Two and do what he's done in however many years in the National League. He's the National League all-time top goal scorer. He's scored at every club he's been to, and in my mind, he can do that in another league as well. I think as well, other clubs have shown that it's possible. We have to take that as positive. No team has gone up, or definitely in however many years, it's 20 or so years, no team has gone straight back down, and touch wood, you don't want to be the first. But yeah, Sutton, Harrogate, as kind of traditionally slightly smaller teams, and obviously but other team, we've had Tranmere, Notts County, obviously what Wrexham and Stockport have done. Obviously we're nowhere near that level, but they've still shown that it's you can compare League Two with the National League in many a way, and maybe not the top of League Two with the bottom of the National League, but I think you can see that these teams can compete. Teams show it in the FA Cup as well, and they go to these league clubs and put up a good performance and sometimes get results. So I think that's another reason, you're kind of taking what other clubs have done and thinking, yeah, we can replicate this. And I think, yeah, the drive of the club and that kind of ambition, like we were saying, and the general teamwork and what Andy Woodman instills in the players, and hopefully keeping Woodman and seeing what he can do in his first season in League Two. I think he surprised a lot of Bromley fans and a lot of fans of other clubs as well. So I think that's another reason to think he can do that, and the rest of the team can in League Two as well.
Let's hope so. What would be your reasons for doubt? I suppose the fact that it is going to be a tough level, a level that the club's never graced before in its 132-year history.
Yeah, that's sort of good reason itself. I think a lot of Bromley fans, myself included, we're sort of like a lot of football fans. We're always slightly pessimistic. You're always expecting the worst. So I think you have that kind of realism of, oh, this could just all go horribly wrong. And even when you sort of speak to other people, they'll say, oh, you're worried that it won't be as successful as you're kind of hoping. And of course there's that worry. It's just like you say, it's not, you look at the teams in the league, and it's a very northern league. There's going to be a lot of travelling for the team, and it's like I say, we need a lot of players. Won't have the same, with the transfer window, won't have the same flexibility with bringing in players, kind of having to make sure we have them in place already. Those are kind of reasons to feel a little bit nervous. But I think I remember going into the National League, and we went away to Grimsby very early on, and just thinking, this is above us, what are we going to do? But I think you kind of get into it very quickly. And a lot of these clubs we've been to, you look down the league, and we played them in the National League and given them a good fight when we were not as strong in the National League. So hopefully we can do that and sort of match them in League Two. Like I say, sort of seeing what Sutton and Harrogate and even Grimsby and other teams that have managed to stay up, and not so much yo-yoing. Hopefully we can do that as well.
Absolutely. So too early for a prediction because we don't know what the squad's going to look like, and it's only mid-June. Give me a number, Georgie, between 1 and 10 to denote your level of optimism for the season ahead as things stand right now.
Mine it sort of has fluctuated a little bit. I'm going to say it's about 7.5 at the moment in terms of being optimistic. I think I don't want to think it's going to go badly particularly, and you do have moments where you say, do you know what, no matter what, it doesn't take away the last season and the day at Wembley, but I do think we're going to surprise some teams, whether or not that's consistently throughout the whole season or just, yeah, I don't think we're going to be everyone's favourite, because I'm sure we're going to beat some teams who are up there and who will get promoted. I fully believe that, so that we'll beat a few of those teams, and I think we'll do well enough to survive it and to give it our all each week. But like you say, hopefully we'll kind of see who we bring in and see hopefully those extra players do sign on as well.
Absolutely, they're going to make a difference, aren't they?
Yeah,
Georgie. Yeah, Georgie, thank you so much for your insight on Bromley. It's been great to get your views. Thanks to everybody for watching. This has been the EFL Debate Summer Deep Dive on the Ravens. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you.